Hello, beautiful people. Welcome back. When it comes to discharge, there are certain prerequisites that are required. Some people, if you're doing it on a business level, usually that entity would have their employee identification number or their tax identification number on the invoice that they send you. And if they don't, you can casually call them and just tell them that you require their TIN or EIN for tax purposes, because that is what discharge is about. Remember, debt is a form of bond, and bond is a form of taxation. In other words, tax is a type of debt, and tax is a type of debt because it's a liability, an exit on the ledger that you owe somebody. Anytime someone alleges that you owe them anything, that is debt. Well, tax is the exact same way. The only foundational difference is you've yet to engage in a form of contract with them saying, I agree to this. With any type of loan that you enter into, they, whether conscionably or unconscionably, get you to sign something whereby you now, some way, expressly or as a form of implication, you agreed to be liable. Now you have to compensate someone for something based on something that you are assumed to have agreed to. Tax, on the other hand, is the assumption that you owe someone, just like a debt, but without you entering into an agreement. The only difference is by way of why it came to life. Why and how it came to life, tax that is based on what entity you're using, how you made the money, and how you're using it. It's that simple. Based on those three criteria of the entity you're using, how you made the money, and how the currency is flowing, will determine whether someone says, all right, fall under our jurisdiction, therefore you owe us something. And there are many ways to which jurisdiction can be obtained or assumed. How you use the money and how you earn it is another word for minimum contact when it comes to finance. And whether or not there will be minimum contact is predominantly determined by what entity you used, because the type of entity you use would either create recourse or would exist without recourse, would either fall under certain tests and scrutinies that we went over in many videos, court tests, control tests, so and so, and all the other details of enforcing contract and trust law. So when you call these business entities and say, I need your TIN or EIN for tax purposes, that's the operation of how modern money mechanics works. Debt, taxes go hand in hand because they're the same thing. They're more accustomed to that. If you're dealing with other types of bills that are not necessarily based on a business account that you've established, then they are familiar with it also, although the typical sales representatives that you immediately speak with might not be able to provide you that information. They might have to forward you to another department that specializes in that. So the EIN is one of the prerequisites that you require, which might take some time to obtain. Time meaning you have to sit on the phone and talk to people. The second one that would take a bit more time is ordering the forms itself. If you ever looked at the discharge webinar in the second video that I placed on the website, that was not placed on Patreon, you will see that forms were used. Well, the question is, how do you obtain the form? You go in any desired search engine, type in online ordering for information returns and employer returns. What this is going to do is going to take you to our IRS website. The same verbiage, online ordering for information returns and employer returns. It's a particular link you want. There is another link that says forms on publication. If you click the link of forms on publication, which is this right here, and you click order tax forms, and you type in your search criteria, you might not be able to find it. I'm going to give you limited searches. So order tax forms is not what you're looking for. What you are looking for is the online ordering for information returns and employer returns. You're going to go all the way to the bottom and click order tax forms. Then you type in the name of the form. It's going to give you a list of the different 1099 forms. In your case, you need 1099 form. It's going to give you the year, whatever the limitation is, and it lets you know the maximum amount that it can provide to you is 100 forms. So click 50 or whatever increments you want. I look up on 1096. I'm gonna bring it up. Whatever year you want, you choose. You add it. Once it's been added, you then begin to basically enter the delivery address. Of course, this is just an example. You can add more. Now, the main question is, this is year 2024. What if you just learned about this, or you just found that you're prepared for the year 2024, but the payoff invoice, which, by the way, before any discharge, you would have to call them to send you a payoff amount or an invoice for the total balance of the payoff for the debt. So if the vehicle is 150K and you've been paying some increments and all that's left is 112K, they wouldn't send you that 112K invoice in total. They would just send you the minimum balance as a regular monthly bill. What you would have to do is you would have to call them and tell them to send you a particular invoice, the payoff statement. It would be a different statement that would show the total balance. That coupon underneath that total balance is what you would endorse and do discharge with. If I were you, I would tell them to send a few copies or call them a few times after receiving the first time, in case the first few discharge does not go through. Because remember, there are many attributes that makes discharge go through or not. It's part of the interest rate of the current economy, and that interest rate will be what you will calculate to determine how much extra amount that you provide to them. Because you always want to give them a little bit more than the account itself. That way they don't close the account itself. If it's a recurring service, like water bill and things like that, or phone bill or whatever it is. And even if it's just for a vehicle where you already possess the physical property, it's always a better incentive for them to actually do it and to discharge it when you always give them more. There's a way you calculate that with the interest rate, current interest rate on the bond market, because debt and bond are the same thing. The discharge that you're doing, they are, remember, that account number, they're trading it on the market. So based on the interest rate that's on the market that's tied to that account number that you have with them, or that loan number that you have with them, if you calculate the interest rate of that thing that's the same with you, although a little bit far from you, but nonetheless it's still related to you, if you calculate the interest rate in a certain way and you give them a little bit more than that, they can hedge off the rise and the fall of the market that's unpredictable, which serves as an incentive for them to actually agree with you without making up some excuse. So that's another minute tip that makes a difference. Find the EIN, call them, tell them to send you a payoff statement. A few of them is best, so that you can read it beforehand. Then you order the form on this website. But what if you already have a payoff statement for the year 2021? And you come to this IRS website and you only see the current versions of all these forms. 2023, 2024, current. They don't have the prior years in here. Well, what do? That's when you pick up the phone and call them. Because when you pick up the phone and call them, you can now particularize the year that you desire. Before, you used to be able to choose the year online, but for whatever reason they changed it, you can't choose the year anymore. Even up here, when you see the year, you can't really click on it to choose a particular year. You can choose the quantity of it, but not the year. Which is what I always repeat when I say, when people know about certain things and they screw it up, they just do it the wrong way. And they start subtly changing things. Yet if I call them as of recent to order prior year's forms, so who knows whatever trick they have up their sleeves when you do call them, since they want you to actually come to them and they want to hear your voice and qualify you before sending you prior year's forms. Nonetheless, the phone number that you will call is 800-829-3676. 800-829-3676. That's the phone number that you call to order these same forms online, but you will tell them the exact year that you need, if that is the year that the payoff amount was issued. But either way, you can always call them so that the payoff amount will be issued during the recent years. Another note that I want to bring your attention to is all these forms that you would normally order online, like this website, you can actually print them out by going to the same IRS website to search forms, instructions, and publications. That same 1099-A, for instance, you can type it in and click it. It will take you to a link. It basically gives you the exact form online. But the year is 2022. Now, if you pay very close attention, it gives you the ability to fill it in for calendar year so-and-so. Now, you might say, well, if I have the ability to just print it out online and fill in the year, what is the use of me ordering it in the first place, either through the website or calling? The use of it is, one, the paper that they send it in, the machine that reads that paper only takes certain textures of papers. So if you don't have that printing paper, particularly for these forms, you're creating a roadblock automatically. That's one. The people that print this out online, they're big corporations that have those types of papers. You might see this and go, well, why don't I just do this? And you print it on regular A4 paper, you cut it out, whatever it is, because these are usually rectangular. There's usually detachable portions here and the copies that are to be sent. You might think it's a shortcut, but they will not disclose to you on this website that, look, these forms are available that you can print out are for those who already have the certain papers that these forms are printed on. Everything in commerce and business is very particular and meticulous. They won't tell you that. The assumption is you already know it. I'm telling you so that you know if you don't know. Sure, you can print it out online, but you need the paper that goes with it. When you order it online or order it by calling them, they already bring in the paper with you. If you ever held these forms in your hand, it's very light because the machine that they go through reads those type of consistency of paper. If you print it on a regular printing paper, their machine will not be able to read it. And they will send you a letter back telling you that. And that's if they want to reveal that information to you. Otherwise, they'll make up some excuse. Now remember, these copies go to IRS and the other party that is the holder in due course or acting as the holder of that account that you're discharging one way or the other. When those guys see these things printed on regular paper, they're going to accept it. They're just going to grin and go, okay, we see what you're trying to do here, but you don't get it. Cool, not a problem. They don't have any obligation to tell you that you're printing on the wrong paper. Just like the GSA bonds. You don't print GSA bonds on regular paper. You use bond paper. Same thing with these IRS forms. There are very particular types of papers that are used to print this. Another caveat is the omnibus number. The series of the omnibus number matches the blanket bond series of the year. In the non-UCC video, how to do it properly with the court cases, I explained the office that deals with omnibus and the significance of it. Nonetheless, when it comes to IRS forms, these omnibus blanket numbers are the series that matches the bond that every other loans issued during that particular year is tagging along behind. So when it was revised, when this form was revised, the reason why it was revised is because the expiration of the series of this omnibus number is the revision year. But they're not going to tell you on this website because they're not obligated to. Here are the very small caveats many people make mistakes on and wonder why it does not work. Small things. So for those of you who don't know these basic caveats, just thought I'd introduce it to you so you know. Until next time, take care. Best of luck.